What's going on, guys? Bladezilla here, and today we are taking a look at a smaller version of a recent knife that I put up here. I did a video on one maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, of the Ecilop or Ecilop, whatever you want to call it, L, which is the large. And we'll have a short video today on the M version, which is identical in almost every single way other than its size. So a little bit smaller, the same cool factor to this Alexi Connigan design. Really cool knife, lots of features riddled throughout this knife, and I can tell you one of my favorites is that there's a mirrored edge on this blade that is just freaking my camera's sensor out, and I think that is a sign of a cool knife. So this is what we're going to be taking a look at today. Sit back, relax, take it in. A little bit later of a video for me, so I apologize if my energy's a little lower than normal, but it's okay. We'll get through it. It's lots and lots of fun. As a reminder, guys, check out my website, bladezilla.ca, where a lot of the knives featured on this YouTube channel are available for sale in Canada. Lots of cool stuff. Just put up some Kunus. Have lots of CKFs available currently. Really cool one, this DLC one, the Magna Core one. Just super sick Sakoshos. A bunch of stuff, Shiros, you name it. Lots of good stuff. So including, there we go, some Ecilop or Ecilop, whatever you want to call it. Lots of good stuff. So there you go, bladezilla.ca in Canada. And lots of fun. So there you go. But we're not here to talk about Bladezilla. We're here to talk about this amazing knife. So I'm not going to deep dive into a lot of the features, just simply because I've done that already on another video, but believe it or not, I was asked to show this knife. I did compare the two side by side. I just, for some reason, put the large out first, which is always pretty cool. But can we just get this out of the way? How cool does this knife look? You know, one of the things I mentioned in the previous video of the large was how there's a lot of design elements found kind of throughout, just lots of threes. You know, 3 stripes here, you know, 3 stripes on the clip, 3 on the back. There's lots of triples kind of found throughout this thing. And even underneath the back spacer, if you can see, we've got 3 machined little accents underneath that are hiding in there. So just lots of cool stuff. I just think it makes for a really cheeky, cool design. I think Connigan's really knocking this thing out of the park lately. Just all their designs. We'll start with some measurements just to kind of show it is a smaller knife. In pictures, when I zoom in on this, they all kind of look the same size, so it's nice to kind of show this in its habitat here. So we're under 8 inches, so 7 and 7/8 kind of range, with a blade of 3 inches sharp. I'd say 3 3/8 to the center of that choil. So I'd say more of a stellar size knife. 4.5 inch long handle. There you go. I'm going to get some weights, or a weight. I can't remember what it weighs, but I think it was around 4 ounces, something like that. Let's throw my little cloth on here, and let's see. Zero that. So what did I say, 4 ounces, something like that? 4.7, yeah, it's pretty close. 4.6, 4.7, somewhere in that range, not far off, which is, honestly, if you've watched this channel long enough, you'll know that I'm terrible at guessing weights. I'm usually not even close, so I will take that within half an ounce. There you go. Titanium handle, obviously numbered M398, I believe, on these blades. Yeah, M398 says it right there. Numbered individually. Lots of skeletonization inside this bad boy as well. And if I can find my light, I know I tried to show that just a couple minutes ago. That back spacer, you can see it better now with a little light kind of shining right in. Really nice. Lots of big pockets, material taken out as well throughout. And you can see right here, this is exactly the kind of thing that I would show Connigan. Hopefully you can see it on the inside of the frame there. Connigan. That would be a cool photo for Instagram or something, eh? Really cool knife. In fit and hand wise, it's honestly proportionately identical, other than the large has a longer trailing edge on the backside. So I find it actually feels very similar. It's a lot shorter. I have an extra large glove hand, and all of my fingers are on it. Not much sticking off, to be honest, but fits nice. We've got a nice ramp up down the handle. It's rounded on the back, really 3D tie milling on that. Looks real sharp. But as you go down the handle, the blade is raised, so your thumb really naturally wants to stop there and not really go past. But if you do, it is flattened along the top of the blade, and as we go down, it widens out with that polished swage on there, mirror polished. Looks good. And another thing, very difficult to show in video without freaking out my little baby camera sensor. So there you go. Another thing that I mentioned on the other video was how, how everything's in threes. Well, it's a tri-finish blade, so you kind of get a stone wash, or I think they call it a CKF wash, with a kind of a satin flat there, and then your mirror polished swage. So it looks really, really cool. It runs on multi-row bearings, super silky smooth, and this is exactly the kind of knife that I would buy myself, just because, let's be honest, it's plain Jane tie with a little pizzazz to it, which is what I'm all about. If it's a clip or a mirror polish, that's exactly what I love in my knives. And these designs are just ridiculous all the way around. I did mention in the other video as well the way this clip hangs over and puts a little bit of a pool there. It's an interesting design choice because when you do put pressure underneath that clip, it will likely add it to the lock bar. Keep that in mind. Not that it really matters. The 3 lines on the clip are lined up with the milling on the handle as well. Also really, really well done. And then these kind of rolled edges, or the bumps on the back spacer, see how we've got both dips and high points, and it works itself into a bit of a design element with the lanyard hole. I think that's a nice way to kind of work that in. It doesn't pop out too loud, but it is part of that back spacer, which I love. Everything's kind of all matched, and got no issues. Let's take a look at some size comparisons. I'm going to put this down low, as Fred Durst would say, for down low in the shockwave. All the ladies in the cave. Yeah, there we go. There's your neon. Pretty nice. Obviously neon much thinner, handle-wise. You can even just see the rounding profile of this one, where a medium-sized hand would just lock and load right into this thing, no problem. And then we'll grab some, well, what do I bring it over? I'll do with an Astrum, which is like basically a big neon. It's the 111 of neons, which is pretty cool. Not much longer, to be honest. Well, it is. It's got about a finger on each side, right? So pretty big knife, but also very thin handle profile. But if I compare it to like a Quantum, we can see the Quantum definitely is a lot bigger than this guy. So just food for thought. It's more of a mid-size. We'll grab our large Sebenza, just to kind of show that as well. Everyone loves seeing how it compares to a large Sebenza, because people know what a large Sebenza is size-wise. And I've done the small. I guess I could put small below, but it's just going to look bigger based on that it's closer to the bottom of the camera. So there's your small Sebenza for just a proportions type of thing. There you go. There we go. And should I do it? Should I do the Oz Rose? Okay, Roosevelt. There we go. There's your Oz Roosevelt, which is much smaller, but in terms of the size and hand, very similar. If you look at the actual length of the handle, it's similar enough that thin knife, thick handle height-wise, but thin carry-wise. A lot of cool design elements, but obviously much smaller lengthwise. That's what she said. There we go. So there's a couple good comparisons, a couple, I guess, size comparisons in a couple different brands. How does it, once again, I think I pointed this out in the last one, the 3-sided pivot as well. That's a nice little touch. I'm going to put that mirror edge away so this camera doesn't keep freaking out, but 3-sided, that's cool. Just all over this place. There's all kinds of little hidden gems and features that the more I look at this one, the more I see it. And I even recall something about the flipper on this. That's right, so the jimping on the flipper tab is on both sides, which I couldn't quite figure out, right? Because you're only using that side of it, right? And you can see it there. And then it's also on the back, so you shoot that out, and your flipper tab on this side becomes that side there, right? But on the back, we still have a little bit of patterning there. So I'm kind of wondering if it's just to add a little grip or to prevent your finger from slipping up onto that blade, because there's not much of a choil. So maybe it could be that. We obviously have an over travel stop on this guy and a lock bar insert, which is standard at this kind of price point. I think these guys were what? I'd have to look. $750, something like that, US? $650? I can't remember. But pretty standard now at this price point. Big hardware, like T25 level hardware points to get this guy apart. T20, T25, something like that. Just huge, given that most knives are like T8, T6. Back to the lock bar, we do have a couple cutouts in this so that you kind of artificially make it feel thinner than it is. Although that lock bar is not raised, so I always point this out on a lot of the knives when I roll that bad boy. And I'll grab my knife I compare it with here, my Shiro Hattie, and how as I roll this knife, you can see that lock bar, the tie side, is higher than the carbon side. And it's nice to have those two materials to showcase that with this knife. So just makes finding that a little bit easier. But on this knife, they are the same size, so it's nice and flat, but the way you get around that is by putting these bevels in both sides to both open up the distance between the two, as well as add a little bit of texture when you're opening it. Super cool. I love that feature. Everything's nice and beveled and round otherwise throughout the knife. The handle, everything is just done really well. And I've got no issues with it. I think this is a great knife. An absolute sleeper of a knife. I know everyone was interested in the large version right off the bat. A bunch of those went out, and less interest on the M, the medium, which I thought would be the bigger of the two seller, because the large is essentially the size of a 111 Shirogorov. It's a big knife, whereas this is a little more standard. So I was kind of surprised, but also makes it a lot of these still available. They're super sick knives. Definitely, if you like the stellar size stuff or the cami size stuff from Shiro, this would be a natural in your collection. Really cool knife. Only drawback, I guess you'd say, is that when you do have a mirror polished edge, you get every last little bit of fingerprints that just somehow you brush your hand on it and you get fingerprints. So that's kind of it. I don't know how that would fare inside a pocket, if it would scratch up and become annoying over time, but you know what? It's a risk that I'm willing to take. And every time I look at this one personally, one of these might end up in my collection. I can almost feel it. I just love the detail work of that CKF. Nice, very nicely done, very tasteful design. And if you've been following me for a while now, you've seen probably, I don't know, half a dozen Alexei Konagin design-influenced knife videos. And surprisingly, this is a pretty reserved version of a Konagin design. And some people look at this and go, oh my goodness, it's full of bevels and lines and cutouts. And I agree, but this, for him, is pretty reserved. A lot of his stuff is very asymmetrical, with the pockets and cutouts and lines, so this is pretty cool. This is pretty plain Jane for him, design-wise, and for others this is very loud. So pretty cool. Pretty darn cool. Alright, well, as I promised, I would make it short and sweet, so that is your Alexei Konagin CKF Ecilop or Ecilop-M, M for medium, accompanying the large version, that which would be the L. And I'm kind of wondering if there's going to be an S, but never know. Or an XL? The Magnum? What do you guys think? Appreciate you guys stopping by, checking this guy out. Super sick knife. Check me out on Instagram, Bladezilla, TikTok, Bladezilla. Obviously, you're on YouTube, so hit a thumbs up, hit subscribe. Every Monday and Thursday mornings, 5 a.m. my time, or I guess it'd be 7 a.m. Eastern. I'll have a full-length video of something like this, looking at a couple cool knives or something that's coming through that week that is totally awesome from my perspective. Otherwise, we will catch you later. Enjoy the week, and lots of new stuff and fun things coming up as always. All right, peace, guys.